Zup. How's it going? Here we are again for another stream. I hope everyone is doing well. We've got Nugget Man. Welcome to the stream. I don't think we've met. We're a little light on people at the minute. That's okay. Maybe give it a few minutes. See if people pop on in. How you doing, Nugget Man? How's it going? How's your day been? Where are you from? Tell me about yourself. The Malice, welcome back. Let's head on over to the chat here. Myself over a little bit. There we go. It's a bit better. I'm all right. Being all right from the USA. Nice. Do you work in DevOps, Nugget Man? Is that what you do? Are you looking to get into DevOps or are you in IT? Marin, welcome. Welcome to the stream. I believe we also haven't met you. Thank you for popping in. I do appreciate it. Hopefully I can be entertaining. You do some DevOps, job as DevOps addition, I suppose. Cool. That's awesome. All right, they weren't interested in watching the stream. Whatevs. $. Big money. Big money, bro. It's big money. Is all type 2 virtualization slow? Laughing my ass off. It's got a lot of layers to go through. I think it's all software defined virtualization and not hardware. At least it's not taking advantage of hardware. So it's pretty poop. Why? What are you trying to do? Or what are you doing? The Malice. What you doing? What you doing with your type 2 virtualization, bro? Julio! Ooh. The man is here. Hyper-V to run CentOS since I needed the GUI. I find Hyper-V really, really slow. However, Phil has had a lot of luck with it. Apparently, it's got something to do with enhanced edition or enhanced session or something. You got to do something along those lines in order to get the full effect. But I don't really play around with it much myself, so I don't really know. So, yeah. I use VirtualBox, but now I've actually done away with VirtualBox, and instead I use a Lightsail instance, AWS Lightsail in Sydney, daily snapshots, and then I use VS Code with remote to just connect to that, or I can obviously just SSH into it, and I'm done. I've got a Linux box with everything running on it. So, yeah. KVM's pretty good. Since today's stream is focused on cloud stuff, check out the link I posted in GCP. GCP. Let's have a look at the GCP. GCP sketch note. Let's head on over to it. If you are looking to become a Google Cloud engineer, then you are at the right place. GCP sketch note is series where I share Google Cloud concepts in quick and easy to learn format. Every product in the Google Cloud family described in the visual sketch note format to grasp the capacity of the tools quickly and easily. Pull requests are welcome in the README file. All right. So it's using graphics to explain the Google Clouds. Let's have a look. All right. So, excuse me. Where should I run my stuff? It depends. Pro tip, you can use them together. Very cool. Yeah, that's very true. So compute engine, existing systems, virtual machines. Use this when you need. GPUs, TPUs, specific kernel and OS, Windows, licensing requirements, migrating existing systems, network protocols beyond HTTP and HTTPS, one-to-one containers to VM mapping, databases. I like that. That's correct. Kubernetes engine. Containerized applications, use this when you need hybrid and multi-cloud deployments. Okay. Yeah. Strong CI/CD pipelines. Yeah. GPUs, TPUs, specific OS. Yeah. Network protocols beyond HTTP. No databases. Correct. Cloud Run, serverless containers, serverless and clusterless apps and containers. Okay. Fully managed infrastructure, rapid auto-scaling from and to 0, okay, HTTP, WebSockets, gRPC, events, no fixed infrastructure footprint. And then the other one we can't see. Oh no. Look at that. I can float. Google Cloud functions, event-driven functions, use this when you need event-driven cloud automation, lightweight, data transformation and enrichment, connecting to external systems and APIs, extend other cloud services with events and code. Correct. Yes, I feel that is correct. Yeah, that seems correct to me. So less operations, more operations, adaptable to various team structures and tool preferences, team integration, DevOps, yeah, committed resources, pricing, usage-based, yeah. I like it. Yeah, that's really nice. Has he got others? Oops. Yes, got tons of others. Cloud Run, Cloud Functions. Yeah, this is really nice. That should be pinned actually in GCP. I think that should be a pinned message. Let's pin that. That's definitely worth, Julia. That's a really good link. Thank you. Nuggetman says, I'm highly interested in GCP. All previous jobs before the one I'm at now was AWS. I'm finding getting to the API documentation that I want to do to be grueling, starting to get better though, getting more familiar with it. Yeah. I like GCP as well. It's good. I think I'm going to be using KVM to nest virtualize in my CentOS. Yeah. Virt Manager, if you're coming from Hyper-V, gives GUI and makes it a lot easier. Definitely Quibi based or LXC, LXD. I think it's, yeah, Quibi based, I think. He's virtualizing. So, Elena, welcome, Elena. Good to see you again. Vertices eventually. All right, I'm going to jump into news. That's awesome. I like these graphs. Migration news, so just pop this in the chat here so people can see it. People like Elena just joining us might not understand what the hell's going on, what I'm talking about, what I'm even looking at. But I like it. Yeah, I like these graphics. They're really cute. What is big data? BigQuery, sorry. Yeah, okay. Ingest, store, analyze, visualize, batch streaming data, yeah, okay. I'm considering migrating from MongoDB to PostgreSQL. Wish me luck. That is a good idea. I love that when I love it when maybe Julia, maybe you noticed this, but did you notice how when like Mongo sort of like first hit the scene, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's so good!" Like you just spin it up, and then you just spin it up, and it's just the best, and it plugs in, and then over about I think it was over about like a 6 to 9 month period, I noticed this trend of then, MongoDB got hacked, or this isn't working, we're going back to Postgres. And then it was just like, oh, this is really good. And then all of a sudden it was like, we hate this. And then it was back to Postgres again. So many MongoDBs got popped. It was ridiculous. So many of them got hacked. It was it was so funny. Just use relational databases. Just stop. Oh, Fraud, welcome to the stream. Honestly, it was just mental. It was hey Fraud, welcome, bro. Mariah is good. Yeah, I prefer Postgres. I'm a Postgres fan. You can do structureless and JSON storage in Postgres. You probably do it in Mariah as well these days. MySQL. They're all just as good as each other, really, honestly. But I just love the Mongo hype. It was like a roller coaster that everyone was just like, "Yay, this is the best," and it just derailed, and everyone just went, "Ah!" Oh, never mind, Elena. Oh, I mean, it's easy to jump on those bandwagons because it's just it's a hype train, isn't it? And you get excited for it. And then don't get me wrong, like when it first came out, like you could spin up MongoDB really, really quick, and then you could write some code, and then you'd just be like, click, connect, and you're just in, and you're just pushing data in, and you're retrieving it again, and you're like, oh, so cool. But then, oh my God, I remember we used my first job here in Australia. the company wanted to use MongoDB to back the app, and I was like, all right, okay then. You understand how hard it is to make a HA? And they were like, really? And I, yeah, it's pretty difficult. And they're like, okay, let's try it. So we tried it, and it was so hard to make a HA. I think it required like 16 servers to make a HA, because you had all these masters, you had all these like shards, and then you had like, how did it work again? It was like you had shards, but like you had like shard clusters. So you needed 3 of them, and they needed 3 servers. That gave you 9 straight away. Oh, and then you needed 3 masters to manage the shards, and then you needed 3 routers to then send the data to the right place. It was just mental. It was just mental. MongoDB was hyped because it was a promise to remove burden of data scheme checking. Yep. Dude, execs always hear buzzwords and force your hand. Took me forever to persuade someone about doing something on the blockchain. Oh god, blockchain, Jesus! Just kept saying it after he came back from some conference. MongoDB Atlas has been the best DAS solution I've ever used. I've never looked at Atlas, to be honest, but running it myself through another managed solution has been a pain. And then you need the blood of a virgin, 3 rabbit feet, and a lucky horseshoe. Yeah, you need the blessing of some witch. You need you need a witch to you need to go visit a witch and get it to bless your cluster. Otherwise, it just goes down. I used to work for a DB company, and I have no clue how they were able to keep Atlas so stable. Magic, absolute magic. That's what it was. All right, let's have a look what's new in AWS. I did highlight a few articles. Where did I get to? Improved. I thought that was funny, the improved celebrity check, and we'll come back to that. Let's have a look. AWS App Mesh, Connect Chat, EC2 now support sharing machine images across AWS organization and organizational units. That's a pretty good one to check that out. QLDB launches new version of QLDB Shell, introducing Amazon EC2 C6i instances. All right. And then Aurora Postgres, Babelfish for Aurora Postgres is now generally available. We've now got R5B instances now available in 2 additional regions. Wow, okay. Amazon Connect is now available in a specific region. Chime Global Market. Amazon Aurora Postgres supports PostGIS 3.1. Excellent. That's the first page. I only go to the first page because there's just so much. Fargate now supports Windows containers. Boom! That's pretty cool. Burning sage in every corner of the house, trying to keep MongoDB instances from getting owned with default creds. Elena, what attracted me to Mongo? Let's have a look. Whoa. What attracted me to Mongo was writing a lot of JavaScript, writing schemas in JavaScript, etc. And yes, easy to set up. Yeah, totally understandable. It's very easy when it just sort of works. When you're just, it just works and your data's getting stored and you're retrieving it and you're like, well, okay, I guess I've got a database now. But so many of those things got hacked. God, it was incredible how many people set them up default and just expose them to the internet. Oh, just insane. By the way, one issue with Mongo Atlas is that it doesn't support custom routes. So if you have an on-prem VPN, you need to set up your proxy. Damn. This is the big AWS news. Goodbye, Microsoft SQL Server. Hello, Babelfish. Why isn't that popping up in my feeds? Annoying. Goodbye, Microsoft SQL Server. Hello, Babelfish. From the 20. Oh, I probably didn't go back enough. Many of our customers are telling us they want to move away from proprietary database vendors to avoid expensive cost and burdensome licensing terms. Yes, I worked for a customer here. One of my customers here, Flight Centre, Australia, big, very, very, they're pretty much like a sweetheart of Australia. They were using Oracle, and they had an issue whereby Oracle, they had on-prem Oracle databases, Oracle Rack, I believe it was, and Oracle themselves came in and set it up. And then so was one of the issues was that when Oracle came in and did the setup and then left again, about 2.5 years later, Flight Centre had Oracle come back in again and do some work on the cluster. And one of the engineers, when it was going through the logs, one of the Oracle engineers was going through the logs of the cluster, and he noticed that there were plugins that were logging that Flight Centre hadn't enabled, but they'd been enabled. And so we took that back to Oracle, and then Oracle tried to sue Flight Centre for $5 million, telling them that their licensing was invalid and that they'd enabled plugins. And Flight Centre said, we hadn't enabled those. We didn't, that wasn't us. You must have set that up. We didn't ask for that. Went backwards and forwards. And after Flight Centre burned through several hundred thousands of dollars in legal fees and counseling, Oracle eventually backed off. And so Flight Centre at that point pretty much sworn never to use Oracle again. And so my job at that point was to actually shift them into Oracle on RDS so they could abstract away the licensing. And then now we've got AWS here saying many of our customers want to avoid proprietary database vendors to avoid expensive costs and burdensome licensing terms. So I completely understand. That's going back to Elena. The issue is my application is huge now on a lot of queries and routes, so it will be painful to migrate, but I'm 100% certain it's worth to migrate for long-term reasons. Yeah, it can be worth the effort. And if you're recognizing that you need to move now, I would just do it now rather than leave it for 6 months and it becomes harder again and then harder again and harder again. Terrible memories of MS SQL. Yeah, no, man, I totally understand. So by migrating away from commercial legacy databases can be time consuming and resource intensive. When migrating your databases, you can automate the migration of your database schema and data using the schema conversion tool and the database migration service. I've used that DMS. It wasn't bad yet. It worked pretty well, but there is always more work to do. Blah, blah, blah. Today we're making Babelfish for Aurora PostgreSQL available. Babelfish allows Amazon Aurora Postgres compatible edition, Postgres SQL compatible edition. Okay, to understand the SQL Server Y protocol, it allows you to migrate your SQL Server applications to Postgres SQL cheaper, faster, with less risks involved. That's really good. So change. Wow, some companies could use that to really reduce their pricing and their costs quite significantly. That's pretty impressive, actually. All right. SQL Server's evolved more than 30 years. We do not expect to support full functionality right away. Yeah, that's fair enough. It's not going to support everything, but it's still Aurora provisioned. Turn on Babelfish. By default, RDS creates a DB cluster parameter group for you to store the Babelfish settings. Babelfish uses default values if you don't modify these settings in additional configurations section. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty big. It's also why a lot of open source projects are having no repackaging open licensing. No repackaging. Oh, is that in the wake of the Elasticsearch stuff? It is a lot of vodka, mate, but I mean, I went and watched the film last night about a Finnish, it was a fictional film, but it was about a Finnish woman going through Russia, and she met a Russian guy on the train, obviously, because it's Russia and that's where Russian people live. So they're obviously going to be on the trains. And he drank a lot of vodka, so now I'm Russian now. Yeah, Mongo and Elastic. Yeah, I remember Elastic, the project went nuts because AWS were just basically, they just repackaged it, right? And then they're like selling it and they're making tons of money off it and never really pushing it back, any of it into the project. So yeah, since one of the common issues, which I understand since I also do a lot of open source stuff, you do, and thank you for that, is cloud take a project and make it their own service without contributing back. I agree. And I'm going to be honest with you, there have been times when I've looked at certain things, certain projects, especially the one that the paperless one, for example. There's a lot of other ones like the Uptime Kuma and the Ping Stat thing. And I just think to myself, it would actually be quite easy to set up a managed service for those things. Wouldn't be that difficult at all to set up a managed service and offer them to companies. But I'm still interested in doing it, but I would definitely be like, I think that at least 10 to 15% of any revenue we make, not profit, but revenue, should definitely be just going straight back to the open source community and the as a sponsorship. For example, the DevOps book, the learndevops.com.au platform for the book is based on MK Docs, and it's based on the material theme. And we give money to the material, like the author of the material theme, because it's so freaking good and we use it so extensively. It's only $10 a month because we're not making any money from the book right now. But once the book goes live, we will ramp that up to 50, 100, and we'll try and make it a percentage, and we'll drive money back in, because then it just encourages more development and it gives back to that community, which then just further helps me in the long run, right? Because obviously if the project just gets better, then the book gets better, the platform I'm building on gets better. So I mean, it's a no-brainer, really. Like, now imagine if every company did that. Imagine if there was like 1,000 companies who could generate even just $10,000 a year in revenue from that project, and they gave 10% back, so $1,000 each. That's a lot of money going back to that project. That's a full-time wage for that person to then work on that project full-time, and then it just exponentially explodes in terms of features and bug fixes. It's a no-brainer. Elastico got quite angry when customer that is using the AWS Elasticsearch sent email to them for support. Ooh, that's not good. Yeah, that annoys me. Yikes. Very frustrating. All right, let's have a look what we got here. Amazon EC2 now supports sharing Amazon machine images across orgs and organizational units. You can now share your Amazon machine images with AWS organizations and OUs. Previously, you could share AMIs only with specific AWS account IDs. To share AMIs with AWS organizations, you had to explicitly manage sharing of AMIs with AWS accounts that were added to or removed from the organizations. With this new feature, you no longer have to update your AMI permissions because of the organizational changes. Okay, AMI sharing will be automatically synced when organizational changes occur. This feature helps you centrally manage and govern your AMIs as you grow and scale your AWS accounts. I like that. That's really good. So global image OU level, yeah, that's really good. Where are you guys located? Because it's 3 a.m. here, so I've got to go to sleep before it gets morning again. I'm in Australia. Most of the audience are in the US. Julio's in Canada. 3 a.m. So you're East Coast? You're East Coast US? Yeah, Nuggetman's East Coast US. It's going to be late for him as well. It's just unfortunate. It's really difficult for me to get the time right. I could. It's not 3 a.m. here. Elaine, are you in the UK? Maybe 3 a.m. is about UK. That's about London time. Yeah, okay. I could do it earlier on a Sunday. I could actually do the stream earlier. I'm not sure what people want. Maybe I'll try that. Maybe it'll open it up to more people. Maybe I'll try doing it earlier in the morning, and see what that does. Maybe a poll. I think it did do a poll, and people were pretty. Yeah, maybe I'll do another one. Maybe I'll do another poll and see what people want. If I did it at over this savvy time. By the way, if you want to convert between time zones, this one's awesome. London. I've actually never seen that before. That's actually the first time I've ever seen that, to be honest. I use this almost every day, and I've never actually seen that. So if I streamed at say sort of an extreme, like 7 o'clock in the morning, London could make it, New York and San Francisco could probably easily make it. I don't think India could though, and I've got quite an audience in India actually. So Brisbane, reset it back, 7 a.m. So yeah, it'll still be early in the morning in India, so I couldn't really do it. Roughly said is awesome, yeah, and then it pops up. Must be listening in. Now it is cool though. Once you use Savvy Time to do your time conversions, it's difficult to use anything else. Like I could stream at 8 a.m. London 10 p.m. So I think for someone like Elena, I think is probably in Europe based on that time zone. Because obviously, what are we at now? It's 12 o'clock for me. It's 2 o'clock. So yeah, she's probably going to be in Paris or something. So it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Maybe this server will use that Meta new VR thingy. No, I could do an 8 o'clock thingy then, and then obviously that would be. So let's have a look at Berlin. 4 o'clock in the morning, Berlin. So Elena could be somewhere like Berlin, for example. That'd still be 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh no, sorry. I was going to say that didn't seem right. So Berlin would be 11 p.m. Let's go in order. So it'd be Berlin. Yeah, Berlin, Brisbane, Berlin, London, New York, San Francisco. Well, obviously India would be like here somewhere. Bah! India would be like there. No, India would be. Geography's failing me. So 8 a.m. would be 11 p.m. Berlin, would make it a bit more accessible. 10 p.m. London, New York. Okay. Thanks God UCC exists. Indeed. Yeah. I'm just trying to think. There's something to think about anyway. Let me pop that over there. Let's go through this news. What's a C6i instance? Generally available to compute optimize Amazon C6i. C6i instances are powered by third generation Intel Xeon scalable processors, Ice Lake. Oh, okay. With an all-core turbo frequency of 3.5 gigahertz, offer up to 15% better compute price performance over C5 instances, with a wide variety of workloads, and always on memory encryption using Intel Total Memory Encryption, TME. Very, very nice. These instances are generally available today in US East, West, and Europe. CI6 instances are available in 9 sizes, 2-core, 444. Wow, 128 cores. Nice. C is optimized. Yeah, and you've got M for memory, I believe, and you've got GPU type. You've got T for burstable and things like that. Yeah, there's lots of different instance types. App to container. A2C now supports deployment of containerized Windows applications to AWS Fargate for ECS Windows containers. With this feature, users can now target AWS Fargate for ECS Windows containers as deployment runtime in addition to ECS and EKS that were previously supported using blah, 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 blah. Very nice. So you can do a .NET command line tool for modernizing .NET and Java applications into containerized applications. Analyze and build inventory of all applications running a virtual machine, on-premise or in cloud. Very cool. Elena's popped off. Okay, that's okay. Just be very sleepy. Amazon Lightsail now supports AWS CloudFormation for instances, disks, and database. I thought that was pretty cool. I just use the UI because Lightsail is just so simple. My VS Code, that thing is just remote to vscode.mcrilly.com. Just hits a Lightsail instance. It's very useful. Fixed price compute is amazing. Yeah, I love it. It's really, really nice. Certain amount of bandwidth. I just enable daily snapshots to get lots of backups. I had to use them the other day actually because I stuffed something up, and it works. Just works fine. Improved celebrity recognition is now available for Amazon Recognition Video. Okay. Base service allows to detect people's faces and inappropriate content. Celebrity recognition makes it easier for customers to automatically recognize tens of thousands of well-known personalities, which would obviously include me, in images and videos using machine learning. Celebrity, because I am a celebrity, recognition significantly reduces the repetitive manual effort required to tag produced media content and make it readily searchable. Machine learning is really, really cool. It's not something I just don't have the maths knowledge, I don't think, to get into it, but I really want to try it. I'm currently in the process of going over like SageMaker for my current client, and it's ridiculously complicated, but it's also really cool what you can do with it. It's something that have you played around with it, Julio, or anyone else in chat? This is what AI can do. It's creepy. Oh, I've seen what AI can do. Yeah. Design, brings to develop. Okay. Adobe's Project Striker Pose uses AI to pose your models for you. Oh my God. Source, target pose, generated. Yeah, wow. Okay. Wow, it needs to go to a good barber. I mean, the AI needs to learn how to cut hair. Also, looks like it's just drawn on the back of his head. Looks like it's used that the AI is just kind of gone, yeah, I'll just draw. I'll just get a pen and just color his hair in. Okay. Project Strike Pose. It's pretty mental. There's scary examples than that though, used by the police. Let's see what's happening in Azure land. Probably nothing because no one uses Azure. Logic apps, standard plan updates and public preview, querying Delta Lake files using T-SQL in Azure Synapse. Analytics is generally available. Public preview, multiple backups per day for Azure files. What? Azure Backup now supports configuring multiple backups per day for Azure files via backup policy. That'd be like Backups 101. General availability, ephemeral OS Disks for Azure VM, supports additional VM sizes, logs.io on Microsoft Azure, general availability, Azure Functions extensions for blobs, queues, event hubs, service bus, and event grid. I was kind of quickly getting back to the last week now already. Virtual machines, extended regional availability for private link NSG support, extended regional availability, private link, Windows 10 IoT Enterprise, Azure Red Hat OpenShift now available, public preview, general availability, Azure governance, general availability express route, Azure. Yeah, we're back to where we were last time now. Azure's pretty boring. And let's have a look at GCP. I found GCP. I think GCP is an awesome cloud provider, but I just find it boring. I find their updates really boring. AWS just really get updates. I don't know, they're just much better at just writing them out. Announcement, new SAP certifications, BigQuery, Omni, and multi-cloud analytics solution is now general available. Let's have a look what that is. BigQuery Omni is a flexible multi-cloud analytics solution powered by Anthos that allows you to analyze data across clouds. Use standard SQL and BigQuery's familiar interface to quickly answer questions and share results from a single pane of glass across your data set. Very nice. Okay. Makes sense. Big data is another one. Have you done much in that field, Julio? Have you done anything for like big data? That's also something that I think is really cool, like being able to answer business questions. I can understand why customers, like large organizations, want to sort of get all of this sort of stuff into a data lake and just be kind of all the movements of their customers and all this stuff, and then be able to just throw a question at an algorithm and it kind of goes, well, based on your question and data available, I think that customers will hate this or customers will love this or so on and so forth. I can see, since I don't have that much data, yeah, that makes sense. There's a lot of weather data that you can get access to. Terabytes of it that you can get access to. Obviously, it would be an expensive experiment, but I think it would be possible to get a hold of a lot of weather-related data, chuck it all in, and be able to sort of have a play around. But I just don't. Again, it's more the maths behind it. Also, it's more fun to do AI ops and chaos engineering in that case. CloudWatcher bidirectional forwarding detection, Vertex ML metadata is not generally available, and then we're all the way back to October 22nd, so they haven't really updated much at all, because October 22nd was almost the last stream. Kubernetes engine, yeah, all right, so there's not really much going on there. Let's burn these out, these tabs, and then let's have a look at the Daily Swig, which had this cool article on the front here, all day DevOps 2021. We'll come to that. Let's have a look at some cyber data breaches first, the latest data breaches, see if there are any we need to be aware of. Video conference platform must improve data breach, Colorado University, yikes. ICA breach, yeah, nothing new there. Colorado University impacts 30,000, wonder what was leaked. Atlassian is a software broken news. Okay, University of Colorado Bolt announced incident with cyber attacks third-party service Atlassian. As a result of a cyber attack on As a result of the attack, some files stored in the program were illegally accessed with potential exposed data, including personally identified information of current and former students that included names, student ID numbers, addresses, date of birth, phone numbers, and genders. Taking advantage. Okay, well, that's not good. There doesn't seem to be any new cyber attacks. All-day DevOps. Trick bot arrest. Russian national extradited to US for alleged role in developing notorious banking Trojan. US lawmakers back mandatory standards for transport cybersecurity. That's interesting. Cold callers. Professional cybercriminals blamed for DDoS on UK telecoms providers. Data breach at Colorado University blindsided. SQL injection flaw in billing software app tied to US ransomware infection. Okay, let's have a look at some of these. So that's the all-day DevOps one. Trickbot arrest, Russian national extradited, blah, blah, blah. That is a horse. A Russian national suspected of being a member of the Trickbot gang has been extradited from South Korea to the US and has made his first appearance on federal court. What did he do? Alleged to have worked on malware developed for Trickbot Group, managing the malware's execution, developing popular browser modifications, and helping to conceal the malware from detection by security software. Wow. I think anyone who's capable of doing that kind of stuff is just seriously up there in terms of skill. And just understanding of how shit works. Trickbot attacked businesses and victims across the globe and infected millions of computers for theft and ransom, including networks of schools, banks, municipal governments, and companies in the healthcare, energy, and agriculture sectors. Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco said in the Department of Justice news release yesterday on October 28th. TrickBot, a computer banking Trojan and ransomware suite of malware, uses web injects and keystroke logging to steal online banking credentials, credit card numbers, emails, passwords, date of birth, social security numbers, and addresses. Later versions were adapted to facilitate the installation and use of ransomware. Yikes! This summer, according to IBM, the gang boosted its network by signing up two new distribution affiliates, and in October, Checkpoint Software reports that TrickBot topped its September Global Threat Index as the most prevalent malware. Oof. The incident alleged blah, blah, blah. Stolen credentials, personal information technology. Dunave is charged with conspiracy to commit computer fraud and aggravated identity theft. Conspiracy to commit wire and bank fraud, conspiracy to commit money laundering, and multiple counts of wire fraud, bank fraud, and aggravated identity theft. Is that the same thing again? If convicted of all counts, he faces a maximum penalty of 60 years imprisonment. Earlier this year, Latvian national Ala White, aka Max 55, was charged with similar offences. According to the indictment, there are at least another 15 members of the gang, including malware managers, malware developers, encryptors, and spammers. I like the way they all have these like titles. What do you do? I'm a malware encryptor. I'm a malware spammer. Very interesting. All right, that's naughty people. Inaction isn't an option. US lawmakers back mandatory standards for transport and logistics cybersecurity. Absolutely. A hearing of the House of Commons on Homeland Security this week, transport cybersecurity, protecting planes, trains, and pipelines from cyber threats. That transport, including aviation, rail, shipping, and ports, is increasingly being targeted by criminal hackers. I'd probably say, criminal hackers, but also maybe state-sponsored stuff as well. Following a Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack over the summer, members of Congress are calling on owners and operators of critical national infrastructure to increase protection of their IT systems. A good way of managing that is, so what happens is when this kind of thing happens, what you do is the systems get hacked, and then lots of people, because obviously it's national infrastructure, lots of people get affected. So what you do is you get the executive team and you put them in prison. And then what you'll find is that you do that again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. And all of a sudden, IT security gets taken really, really seriously. So Cybersecurity, Infrastructure Protection and Innovation Subcommittee Chairwoman Yvette Clark told the hearing, shocked by what we learned during the oversight of Colonial Pipeline and other recent high-profile cyber incidents. Members of the Congress have begun to question whether the federal government's approach to cybersecurity, which relies primarily on voluntary partnerships, actually works, or whether some security requirements ought to be mandated. Exactly. You can't just say to people, these companies, it's sort of mandatory, because they're businesses. They're going to look at what's efficient from a financial perspective, and if they say it will cost us 15 million to fix a breach, apologize a little bit, and we'll get a slap on the wrist of 30 mil, but they're making 5 billion in the process, it's irrelevant. And then they'll just go and get an insurance policy, and an insurance company will evaluate that risk and say, you give us 3 million. And in the event that it all goes tits up, then you're done. We've paid you 3 million. We take that risk. So it needs to be mandatory, not just sort of optional. When a gas stops flowing, I agree. I think that this needs to be way more needs to be taken way more serious. Professional cyber criminals blamed for DDoS attacks against UK telecoms providers. ongoing series of cyber attacks against several UK-based and international communication providers are the result of coordinated criminal operations, a criminal operation geared towards extorting victims, according to an industry trade group. In a statement, Comms Council UK blamed a coordinated extortion-focused international. Is this the one that hit? It even hit like Fastmail over here in Melbourne. Is this the same one, or maybe it's a different one? Business-focused VoIP provider. I think it might be different. Yeah, well, see you in a second, Lamellis. Oh, he's gone. He's jumping on his phone. Okay, Didaswig has asked, comms, ransomware threats, the attacks on a scale not before seen in the history of Comms Council. No, I think it's a slightly different one. But okay. SQL injection flow and billing software tied to blah, blah, blah. Bill Quick. BQE software Bill Quick web suite version earlier than 22091 allows SQL injection that gives rise to an even more serious remote code execution risk. Huntress Threat Ops team reports that the vulnerability was exploited to get initial access onto the system of a US engineering company prior to a ransomware attack. Yikes. 40,000 users. Vulnerability enables blind SQL injection via the application's main login form. This opens the door to both stealing data from vulnerable systems without authentication, as well as plants malicious code and detailed technical analysis by Huntress. Outlines help with customers because these versions of QuickBooks use MS SQL user for database authentication. The SQL injection also allowed the use of XP command shell procedures to remotely execute on the underlying Windows operating system. When I've done a little bit of pen testing training, and that was one of the ones. That's one of the first things that pretty much gets attacked straight away. Is can I do this to get a reverse shell? Because if you can run that, then you can run a process that sets up a reverse shell, goes out to your list, and then you have something listening on your system. Boom, and then you go boom, you go back again over the shell. Essentially, just a raw TCP socket that just listens for connections. And then you get a shell on the Windows box, and then you go from that, and then you pivot through the network. Exploitation of the vulnerability is far from difficult, as a technical blog post by Huntress illustrates. Yikes. Okay, well, there you go. Not good. All right, let's have a look at this all-day DevOps 2021, securing the software supply chain with ephemerality and the least privileged principle. Let's pop this in here. I think this is something, obviously, it's quite a big one. You guys are probably going to have to go over it yourselves. But attacking the build pipeline. I think, yeah, and I think that I'm going to move on to the all-day DevOps, but I think this is something that we should all read. This is a good one. It talks about sort of DevSecOps and things like that. It's a good read. But I'm going to jump over to this. Did anyone do any of this, all-day DevOps? Did anyone look at the any of the speakers or anything, or anything like that? Scroll to see the full schedule. Okay, kickoff. The Linux Foundation due to 1. Keynote, CAMs then and now, and the path forward. Gamification of chaos testing. Sort of in line with what you were just talking about there, Julio. Online product engineering dojo. Kubernetes Goat, practical approach to learn Kubernetes security. Yeah, okay. Goat is, if you don't know, is a vulnerable web application, web Goat, and you set it up, and then you can attack it with SQL injections and all these various security flaws. And Kubernetes Goat sits inside your Kubernetes cluster and does a similar thing, but from a Kubernetes perspective. So you can learn how to secure it. Managing delivery of your app via DevOps. Excellent. Okay, voice applications, cloud native on Kubernetes with Terraform, lean landing zones through SRE and SLOs. That could be a good one. Shift left all the things, and now your dev process. Dev process already is at the left. Secure your cluster to cluster traffic. Some good ones here. ChatOps, AIOps, and Virtual War Room, Honeycomb, sponsored by Honeycomb. Why your DevOps culture transformation failed. I like the way they're individually sponsored by companies. Like that one's Honeycomb. That's charity Charity Majors company, I believe. Honeycomb. Yeah, I believe. About the team. Pretty certain isn't this the one that Charity Majors created? I feel like it is. Yeah, there she is, CTO. Wow, they got big really quickly. Holy moly. They got really big really quickly. Holy shit. Wow. Okay. I really like that these individual sessions were sort of sponsored by individual companies. That's really cool. REST glazings, legacy systems for your delight. Follow your team's interesting. Real world continuous delivery. Enhance your pipelines with containers. There's some really good stuff here. So will this be watch on if you're registered ADO login? Okay, so watch on demand. Let's see if we can see something. Sign up today. Already have an account. This is only open to registered attendees, not registered yet. Register here. So bright, yeah. It's like you can almost lick the screen and taste it. Okay. Unavailable for this event. All right, maybe. Although you did. Hang on. 24 hours free online. Okay. Well, let me watch it then. That's a completely different thing. All right, I'll come back to that. Alrighty. I think it looks really good. Keynote, CI/CD, modern infrastructure, DevSecOps, site reliability. Okay, I like the way they've done that. Premium sponsors. I like the way the cloud providers that have a lot of money on actually they're only gold and not like premium sponsors. Contino. I used to work for Contino. Excellent. Macquarie. I banked with them. Interesting. Okay. Let's move over here to Pulse Dive. It's another dashboard for finding threats and things like that. Let's have a look at the Explore. Indicators. I don't know what that is. I've never actually explored that, but you can come in here and you can see community stream, see CVEs, tweets, Pulse Dive. Try Hack Me Anthem walkthrough, and these are just general. It's like almost like the Hacker News of cybersecurity, essentially. So you can see what people are doing in the cybersecurity space on a sort of pretty serious scale, to be honest. It's quite a good one. Check it out, actually. Welcome to the stream, Bo, or Boo. Boa, it says there's only one O, I guess. I guess it's Bo. Let's move on to Hacker News. Do a refresh. I miss the old internet. Me too. I miss the old internet when it was really, really simple. That's probably crashed. Fundamentals. So old, it's crashed. Explaining Ruby fibers. I want to say order people to get good at chess. How to minimize how to write. How to help a programming student get unstuck. Interesting. Oh, it loaded. Okay. 2019 doesn't have a, okay, it's not in reader mode. It's also over HTTP, which is naughty. I'm going to come back to that one. Not really good streaming material. Internet, hey, Exchange, how will it do anything DevOps? Also this, the Google DNS 010.010.010.010 is it's the same it works as a DNS server, but it also means 8888 in another format. I can't remember what that format is. Octal 10. Oh wait, the octal 010 on is 8, so it's basically 8888, which is kind of cool. Well, that was kind of interesting. Pre-industrial workers, shorter workers today. I had shorter work week than today's. That's not good. Raspberry Pi Arc achieves Vulkan conformance, gets GPU performance boost. Nice. If the internet were redesigned today, what changes would you make? Navy failures. Blah, 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 blah. If the internet was redesigned today, what changes would you make? Not a bad question. I mean, the protocols, networking, connectivity, is DNS really a perfect protocol? Can it be improved? IPv6 dates back to 1997 and it really should have been adopted more urgently. IPv4 isn't a huge issue, but it sucks that so much of the internet is dependent on cloud providers because it's the simplest way to get a public IP address. The decentralized web didn't happen in part because of this. Facebook was famously started and hosted in a dorm room, but this was only possible due to the history of Harvard within the advent of the internet and the fact that they had such an excess of addresses that Zuck could bind to a public IP address. Yeah, we'll never know what tiny services could have blown up if people didn't hit this wall. I mean, why not dream big? IPv6 is a mess. Absolute definition of second system syndrome. Yeah. That's an interesting question. What barrier to entry did not have an IPv6 introduced for some companies? End-to-end encryption and tracking resistance at a low enough protocol level that most developers or users would never know the pain of even thinking about either. Imagine how many times security and privacy have been re-implemented in different contexts, and that patchwork approach will incentivize security breaches and manipulation through dark surveillance until no end in sight. Yeah. I would have tried to arrange it so that whatever method comes to the mind of the average person for publishing a document on the internet publishes a static document. Interesting. Okay. The browser. All right. You can still do that though. Get rid of most of the JS to prevent amplification and keep the focus document centered. I think this would result in protocols over walled gardens. The problem with JS makes HTTP, HTML, everything to everyone. Be careful what you wish for. JS and HTML5 is why we don't have Adobe Flash anymore. There was a whole period in the noughties when web interactivity sucked, and so the external plugins like Flash, Silverlight, and Java applets took up the slack. The alternative to JS is not no scripting; it's websites that only function with proprietary plugins installed. Well, I think we need a better way. I think for me, what I would introduce is you go to a web address and then you just have a local. Flash was really bad, but I think if you look at the way we're doing it now with web ASM, and you visit a website, and then you have this potential for this web ASM to just launch. I mean, have we not just sort of gone full circle where the browser is just becoming an operating system? And then with WebASM, you're getting this high speed stuff. And so now we just have full blown applications running inside of a sandbox that's internet connected. Why not just stop for a second, take that functionality out, and then just put it inside the operating system so that on my OS desktop, I just type in a web address and then that goes to my operating system, has a stack that then goes to that web address, pulls down the code and runs a native app locally. And then a web browser can then become something that then browses a list of static documents. To be honest, the way that browser plus web is going for app direction, where a site is becoming and behaving more like an app, that's sort of where we're going, right? I don't think I don't know, do we need a browser to do that though? Can't a browser just become a part of can't the browser and the operating system now just become one thing? So that say for example, I go to Sublime Text website. I go there and I get presented with a static document that has a link on it. I click the link and then I get a binary for my architecture and my platform, and then I run that locally outside of the browser, and then it executes and does things. Right? Why can't these web pages where VS Code in the browser, why can't it just be that I go to a website and then I get VS Code local and it just runs? I don't know. It's hard to explain what I mean, but it's sort of just I just want to see a melding of these two things. WebAssembly, web GPU, service workers. You see, all that stuff we have on the desktop already. It's like trying to take the desktop and put it inside the browser instead of taking what we've learned from apps that we build inside the browser and bringing all of that and going, let's get rid of the browser, or at least let's make the browser a static document system like the original internet from the early days. And then instead do it so that if you hit app.domain.com in your desktop, it just pulls down and runs the app, just runs it. That's very true. But I think that if we focused our efforts on that, you could overcome that. Like because we are focusing on doing everything in the browser with JavaScript and WebAssembly and trying to get those things working, no one's working on that. So that I think that's sort of the issue. And then you've got languages like Go that can just compile to multiple platforms. Rust can just compile to multiple platforms. So that, I guess it's obviously, I mean, looking at the amount of Linux, I'm not sure, man. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't take Linux seriously as a desktop, or to be honest with you. Web app capabilities built into the foundation system on the browser. Elements that I know that are user editable, an offline database in the browser as a concept of user accounts and resetting passwords baked in. That's quite a nice idea, I guess. You're going to have anything in the browser. Identity as a core layer. Having been in the wrong end of a large service that was relentlessly attacked and spammed, I understand the value of anonymity, but it probably should not have been the default. Interesting. Can we fix email so that it provides authentication, integrity, and confidentiality protections by default? Yeah, email is pretty broken. DNS is far from perfect. TLDs are stupid and always have been. The arbitrary rules for records are stupid. Well, TLDs aren't really stupid. Top-level domains, I think they act as a namespace. But I think maybe they should be something like they're just named to namespaces and you can just register your own namespace. You know, like Google have .google now. You can go to domains.google and it'll take you to Google's domain registration service. So, could I get .crilly, for example, and then I own that namespace and can create www.app. Stream.crilly, and then slash and you have your path. So maybe it's silly that our TLDRs are static, I guess. Never mind, I could keep going. DNS sucks. Maybe make the DNS less US centric and replace PKI with Dane. We should have had DHCP prefix delegation for IPv4 so people wouldn't need NAT. I have this experience where I come into new orgs or projects and I think we could just start fresh with old lessons and could build it so much cleaner. It's partially true, but mostly we end up building a really clean base and then the business requirements come up and we need to add back in all the things I thought would cruft. That's yeah. Redesigned today. QuantNet already being redesigned today in QuantNet. Interesting. Okay. Quantum Internet Blueprint Workshop. From long distance entanglement to building a nationwide quantum internet. Wow. Okay. Today, many scientific experts recognize that building and scaling quantum protected and enhanced communication networks are among the most important technological frontiers of the 21st century. The international research community perceives the construction of a first prototype global quantum network, the quantum internet, to be within reach over the next decade. Okay. Well, that's certainly something to keep in mind, I guess. Wow. Okay. Number one change I'd make is not to trust users to behave. Yeah. Okay. I get that, I guess. I mean, we do that, don't we? I would prefer if the internet architecture was a mesh network and that sites pages were content addressable. Yeah, that'd be nice. Cryptographic identity verification and trusted clocks. Boom, boom. No ads at all. The biggest mistake was making it trivial to forge email headers. While the spam problem is much better than it used to be, that's because there's a whole lot of behind-the-scenes and expensive infrastructure devoted to combating it. I agree. Spam could have been sort of stamped out in the beginning, but I guess in the very early days, it wasn't really, people weren't really doing that, right? You don't go online and people weren't going online and doing that, so. I guess back in those days, it was more of a trust model, like it's sort of like the honor system, and obviously people have taken the piss and just spammed to death. I would guess that the annual cost of spam is somewhere in the billions. It is in the billions. All right. Well, that's it. That's today's stream, yo. Does anyone have any questions or does anyone want to ask anything? Does anyone want me to look at anything? Cube sphere. One thing I'm going to do on Wednesday, I reckon on Wednesday stream, I'm going to bring back in people coming on and talking. Did you find that did you like that, Julio, when you were coming on the stream and talking with other people and we were having a chat and stuff? I thought that it was pretty good, and I had a few reasons why not. Because I didn't want to. I didn't want people to say something and it then went on YouTube and then it sort of bit them. So I later on down the line, if they said something that their employees didn't really like. So what I'll do with the Wednesday ones is get people back on again, and we'll have a natter about things, and we'll just have a sort of general chit chat. But I just won't put it on YouTube. It'll just be a live stream, so there won't be any. And I'll still record it in case you want a copy of the recording, but I won't put it on YouTube. Let's have a look at this. Kubernetes platform tailored for hybrid multi-cloud. Okay, KubeSphere is a distributed operating system for cloud-native application management using Kubernetes at its kernel. It provides plug-and-play architecture, allowing third-party applications to be seamlessly integrated into its ecosystem. Okay. What is this video? All right. Boom. You should get desktop audio, I believe. Well, the music's okay. All right. Multi-cluster management, right? Yeah, it's not a very good video. I'd rather someone actually talk me through what the friggin' hell's going on. Set route rules, okay. Is this all it's going to be for 4 minutes? That's mental. I'm not watching that. That's just nuts. So look at this. I have a question. Do you have any certifications? Are there any cert you view highly in terms of DevOps? I have expired certifications, but when you get to a certain point, Brendan, welcome to the stream. Thank you. When you get to a certain point in your career, you don't really need them. They sort of kind of pop off the radar. But would I recommend any? It depends on where you are in your career and what you're trying to achieve. If you're completely brand new and you haven't stepped foot into the industry and you want to land an interview and land a job, I would say in DevOps, I would get an AWS certification. I would look at maybe the Hashicorp stuff for like Terraform. You can get I think there's a Ansible certification now. But overall, in this field, I would demonstrate through a portfolio of code that you're capable of doing the job with a production grade sort of deployment of something. So I've sort of just let mine lapse, and there aren't really any DevOps focused certifications. Like there's AWS ones and GCP ones, but they're about doing DevOps on those platforms with the services and tools provided by those platforms. They're not like, let's do DevOps, here's how you do it with GitLab, CI with Terraform, but they're like AWS ones you're using code commit, code build, CloudFormation. And I don't think that's a very, very good CloudFormation, for example. I don't like it at all. It's just poop. It's just not a good product. It's just terrible. It's just thousands of billions of lines of YAML, and it's just horrendous to work with. And so I don't want to do a DevOps cert that forces me to use that tool. It doesn't work in my opinion. So I've had them, but they've lapsed. CCNAs, RHCSE, AWS certs. Yeah, that's pretty much it, really. Brennan, certifications versus college, yeah. Lemanis, okay, great. So less certifications and more proof of performance. That's kind of a relief because studying for a test is kind of lame. That's another thing as well is when you go about going, well, how do I pass this exam? Well, okay, well, you're going to need study material. So you go online and you find like Adrian Cantrell stuff. You find a Cloud Guru, Linux Academy, all this stuff. And it's just hundreds of hours of video. And it's so boring and it's so mind numbing Like you can generally like you might find like a course that's like 81 hours video course on, and it'll get you AWS professional certification. And I sort of think to myself, well, you can really, most people, unless they're unemployed or they're students or whatever, can only really put about an hour to two into studying per day for 3 or 4 hours, for 3 or 4 times a week. So if someone can study for 3 days a week for 2 hours, right, that's 6 hours. That's weeks upon weeks upon weeks of study by watching videos, and they're just crap. They're just so boring, and they're never project based, except for Adrian Cantrell's stuff, which is really good, and you do the Animals for Life stuff, and it is all project based. Most of it isn't. Most of it just isn't, and it's just so boring. And that's why with the learndevops.com.au stuff that I'm doing for for learning DevOps, the Learn DevOps platform, it's going to be a book with like mixed media. It's going to have videos embedded in there, code for you to type out and copy paste, projects for you to run. It's going to be a whole project going through with lots of micro projects interlaced, so that it's actually interesting and actually building stuff. And it's going to be stuff that you can then use as portfolio pieces. And then Brennan brings the point, certifications versus college. Yeah, that's a difficult one. College. Well, I never finished high school, so let alone college. The university concept of college, anyway, is different to the concept of college in the UK, which is obviously where I was born and where I was educated. So I never even so much as finished high school. So I can't really comment on whether college is good or not. I don't think it's overly necessary, but I think there's more to college than just simply a certificate. I think there's a whole college is a whole holistic sort of education, not just the major or the minors that you pick. I think it's also the connections with other people, learning to study, maturing, growing, networking, working hard, and so on and so forth. So I think personally myself, I would say go to college if it's accessible to you, it's affordable. Ideally, if you're not going to take on any debt going, and so on and so forth. But overall, you don't really need it for this field. Brazil, join the stream. Congratulations. No problem. Thanks. I'm glad you're enjoying the stream. Thanks for coming up. Really appreciate it. Brazil. Very nice. Never been Brazil. Let's have a look at this again. Let's go back to this. KubeSphere container platform, tailored of Kubernetes multi-cloud. What is KubeSphere? KubeSphere is a distributed operating system for cloud-native applications management using Kubernetes at its kernel. All right, so I guess it's essentially you set up multiple Kubernetes clusters, and then KubeSphere is just going to give you this overall management of them all. It's wrapping it all. So now, what happens if you have multiple KubeSpheres? Do we need to create solar cube, so that solar sphere, so that if I have multiple cube spheres, which can be planets, I can have a solar system of spheres? The one I want to check in the demo environment is in the App Store. The one I want you to check in the demo environment is the App Store. What? Oh, this one. App Store. GitLab, RabbitMQ. I'm actually considering the concept of, I don't know, I might actually skip sort of any more investment in Kubernetes. I might just learn the basics so I can operate it for a client, but I'm really, really loving Nomad and just how easy Nomad is to get going, especially when it's plugged into console. And I'm in the process of learning how to, and then I'm Hashicorp Nomad. And then I'm interested in learning how to then plug it into Vault as well. Vault is a bit of a beast. Console's a bit of a beast as well. So the only other thing I need to solve is, Nomad Pack is really good, yeah. The only thing I need to solve is making the service mesh work for me in AWS. So I need to be able to set up a load balancers, essentially, that's going to be able to plug in there. So that's another thing I need to just look at. There's probably very easy ways of doing it, but I've got a cluster up and going really, really quickly. And that's really easy to do. I've got console working. I've got three master nodes and three client nodes, and on the master nodes I put console, Nomad, and Vault, and then on the clients I put console agent and Nomad agent, and then that all works, and then I can successfully deploy a job, and then they go out and they can run Kubernetes jobs, jar files, raw executables, and so on and so forth. And I really love the sort of composability and just how simple Nomad is versus something like Kubernetes. And so for me, I think Nomad is going to be the route that I take going forward, even for the learn DevOps stuff. I don't think I'm going to go down the Kubernetes route. I think I will look at the Nomad stuff just because I feel quite passionately about the concept of keeping things as simple as possible. And things like Kubernetes is unbelievably complicated. It's very, very complicated for the process of deploying software. And I know that's hard, and I know it does a lot of things for you, but I think you put a lot of trust in it, like sort of like it works, so let's just hope that it continues to work. And it's just too much of a black box for me. And so what I really love about Nomad is just the ability to it's a single binary and you run it, and then you send it stuff and it runs it and it works it out, and it can do the same orchestration level stuff, and it doesn't have all the same tools, of course. It's not as complicated, but I sort of like that, really. Cool. It's platform. What do you think of Rancher? Rancher's pretty good, but again, it's still Rancher is again still something that's got a lot of moving parts inside of it, and it's still a black box. It's still a lot of magic involved, and it's stuff that I'm not overly familiar with. And I think I've got to get familiar with a lot and know it really well to really be able to confidently say I can manage a Kubernetes cluster or a Rancher cluster. And so I don't like that. I think there's a problem there. I think they honestly overcomplicate things quite heavily. Like, I don't need to go to AWS to set up a Nomad cluster. I just need some EC2 instances. Hashicorp is a tool that just installs console and Nomad for you. Once you've got console installed, Nomad, when you run it, will see the console's installed, and it will use it to talk to other Nomad instances, and it will cluster automatically. Just HA, just done, boom, just straight away. And then when you run it, and then when you create your master cluster, and then you create another EC2 instance and you put console agent on it, when you then put Nomad on that, because that console agent is registered with your cluster, Nomad talks to the console agent and just becomes a part of the cluster, talks to Nomad, and you can schedule jobs to it. How hard is that to understand? It's just not the same with Kubernetes. There's all kinds of APIs and all kinds of moving parts and virtual networking and stuff, and I don't know. Just drives me a little insane. All right. Easy to deploy popular. Oh yeah. No. This is for like running stuff. Yeah. Do you have a schedule of what to be taught on certain days? So the book at the minute is very stagnant at the moment because we're sort of going over our business plan and how we want to approach it, and just sort of the overall sort of thing. But in its current form, it will teach you. Talk about this application, the silly little app that we're going to build. It'll show you the source files, so on and so forth. It'll go over each one, and it'll talk about it, and it'll show you how to compile it and push it all out. And then it talks about the infrastructure as code and goes into each file in a bit of detail. So it'll show you how to actually build out an environment, and you get to the point where it all sets up. But this is going to be not rewritten, but it's going to be very heavily restructured to focus on a much bigger application with it backed by a database on the back end, and it's going to focus on Nomad as well to the next stage, but it will be very much sort of like you follow along, and it's based on a curriculum that you go through. Yeah, so it will be, but at the moment we don't have that. Early days. Have you written any packs yet, Julio? README, not yet. Metadata variables, an optional but highly encouraged changelog, on optional outputs or TPL. Yeah, file that defines an output to be printed. Okay, template subdirectory. But I'm already working for OpenStack packs. Right, okay. Example, metadata, app, author. Oh, pack hello world description, where to get it from, version. Okay. Very interesting indeed. Basically, it's Helm buffer nomad. That yeah, pretty much what it is. Yeah, yeah, you're not wrong there, Earl. That is pretty much what it is. Updated 2 days ago. Tech preview, templating and packaging tool for nomad installation. I need to get my cluster sort of going first. At the minute, I'm having an issue with well, I won't go to that because Brendan's asking good questions, so I'll make sure I'm answering these first. Cool. How does junior DevOps selection process work where you live? It depends what you mean by selection process. Brennan is going to be right back. Okay, no worries. Oh, Nugget Man's going to be right back. Sorry, my apologies. I just mixed the colors of the people's names. Brennan, cool. How does junior DevOps selection process? What do you mean by selection process? Do you mean for a job interview? Is that what you mean for a job? So if someone's applying for a job and I'm hiring and I'm interviewing them and they're junior, how do I select them? Is that what you mean? I'll wait for Brennan to give me more information there. Yeah, what I effectively have is, let me just pop over to the browser, that browser. Just give me a second and I'll log my, I'm just going to log into set up my problematic access. Direct nomad mode. Direct nomad mode. Direct nomad? Direct nomad node? What do you mean? Sorry. What you want about, you crazy fool? All right. Directly running Nomad on a machine. Yes. But instead of dinned, yeah, I just run it. I wouldn't run it inside a Docker. That doesn't make sense to me. Because don't forget, Nomad offers the sort of flexibility for people to be able to run non-Docker containers as well. So I just put it directly on raw compute and then have it manage your containers for you. And for me, it's a very good option because I've got clients who have existing workloads and they're looking at things like Kubernetes and stuff, but they also have this traditional stuff, container or just exec. No, it supports jar files directly. It's got a couple of other things it supports natively directly. It can do, like you say, like exec, but it can support some other things natively as well as Podman, Kumi. Yeah, it can run VMs and all kinds. So, and I have clients that would be probably pretty interested in that, really. If I can give them the option of orchestrating containers in a way that's much easier and much faster, then and they don't need these complex clusters, then that's probably going to be quite appealing to them. Brendan, you never clarified on what you mean by the selection process. I think you mean during an interview. Is that right? Okay, so inside of my cluster, I just have these folders, proxy and infrastructure. And I need to flex my muscle to update Nomad LSP to HCL2 and more features. I need to use your thingy actually. So inside of here, oops, daisy. There we go. Sorry. We can see that I've got a .terraform, I've got a state file, etc. And what I have this go.sh in here. And all I do is doing an init and apply the provision.remote cluster that comes out of the Terraform apply. And then I just run it. And then I go to the proxy and then I just run a local non-root nginx thing. And I'll demonstrate why in a second. And so if we look at modules, Nomad cluster. In fact, let's just bring that back in. Modules, Nomad cluster. This is just a mess right now. Utter mess. But all I'm doing is just creating some clients, some masters, and then I'm outputting the shell script provisioner. I'm outputting an nginx configuration, and then they go onto some static files on disk, and that allows me to then run an nginx locally, which goes into my AWS environment and proxies between my VM and Lightsail and those instances so that locally here on this system, I can then talk to console and stuff like that. So if I just do a go, that should initialize everything. I think I've got all my AWS set up properly. I've got my key set up, so on and so forth. So this should just go ahead and just whip all through all that for me. Get everything all set up. But I think the problem I'm having at the minute is the client machines, the Docker's not installing for some reason. And I think it's because of this user data, and also the Nomad cluster reduced itself down to 1 because of something I did wrong. Is this a Nix? This is going to be Nix, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Nomad plugins, Nomad driver, Podman. Nice. So what does that do? Does that just set it up locally in one go, or console master 1? I'm just making sure everything's being configured. Console master 2. In AWS, does that just set it up locally on Docker, or in Nix? Set up an optional Podman plugin. All right, so it's just a local cluster. I've already got my ports forwarded here. This one is Nomad. This one is Vault, and that one is Console. So now you see it's now connecting and setting up the Vault servers. Vault at the minute is just, it's a bit of a mystery to me. I've only ever walked into an existing one. Is it? That shouldn't be the case. Must be running in the background. That's all right. All right. There we go. All right. So if I now pop over to here, that's the wrong one, wrong browser. Let's go to console. So if I just copy that, copy local address, just going to pop to the right browser window so you can see it. So this then just pops me through. The only thing you have to care about is auto unsealing. Yeah, I think that's true. I think you're right. But also, see, this is one of the things I've got to deal with is for the auto unsealing is they show as unhealthy until they're unsealed, and it does tell me that. So until it's unsealed, it'll also always show as unhealthy in the cluster. But overall, it seems to be sort of working. But I think I've broken, with a recent change, I think I've broken the clients because they don't seem to be coming in, because there's only 3 of them here, but that's okay. I'll pick it up. So Vault isn't showing as working because it's unsealed, because it's this is console, yeah. So no, you got your Nomad checks on the master, and then you got your stuff. Which version? I think it's a slightly older one. I think it's 1.10.3. I think I think it's older anyway. I think we're on 1.11 now, aren't we? Or I think it updates. It's the latest version, I think. Actually, sorry. Yeah, 1.10.3. Yeah, it's 1.10.3. Yeah, the latest version. So I use Hashicorp, and Hashicorp pulls the latest version down when it builds your cluster. You can give it a specific version if you want to. So this is the slight changes to it, all your data centers and stuff. So this is the thing in a sense, but as you can see, I've got Nomad, Console, and Vault, but my Nomad clients didn't come up at all, and so I can't actually remember why. So if I go over here, I think this is going to blow up in my face if I try and SSH into this. Oh, okay, maybe not. Alrighty. I think I'll put myself up here for this because there's a lot of console going on. Over here. All right. Right. So we've got this is on the server data center. Oh, the Nomad server's working fine actually. So I've almost SSH'd into the wrong one. I've SSH'd into a master and not a client. I also need to do DNS as well. It's probably a good idea to get DNS on the bounce. So I attempted to enable the Docker plugin here. I think actually Docker should be running now. For some reason, these clients aren't connecting. Let's go back to here and look to see what happened, if anything. Nomad client 3, unable to initialize front end. DAG. Hang on. That's interesting. What's happening here? Get. Yeah, that's fine. Reading database, pulling down, downloading Nomad 116. System D starting. Okay. Client error. Right. Okay. Let's have a look what this client error is. In the console setup. Is the console set up in Nomad? No. Console comes first. So Hashicorp is installing console for me on 3 master nodes. And then those 3 master nodes console are being configured to talk to each other. So that creates a console cluster. Then when you install Nomad, because Nomad is also a Hashicorp tool, it natively understands console. It sees console, and then it talks to console, registers itself, and then all of them see each other, and then they form an automatic Nomad cluster on the masters. Pretty much, yeah. Exactly. And then when the clients are then configured to talk to the master, then when you create the client, you put console on there in agent mode, or agent mode, talks back, becomes a part of the console cluster, and then you put Nomad on there in agent mode, that talks to that console, and then adds itself automatically to the cluster. Except it's just failing on here now, but I think it's probably because of the change I made to the file. But it's having a hissy fit at the moment. How do I... I can't remember how you see the logs in journal CTL. -u nomad. Unknown key, start limit interval seconds service, ignoring. Well, I didn't define that, so that's okay, I guess. Agent plugin detected, name Docker, type Docker. Unable to parse seed. Okay. Error console. Could not query console data centers. Get localhost 8500. Connection refused. 127.0.0.1 8500. That's interesting. No servers available. I don't think I installed netstat, do I? No. It's a good question. Maybe I misconfigured it. I don't think it's running at all. No, it's not running at all. So that's telling me that the problem might be with the console client. Oh, here we go. Could not get. Okay. So it didn't install the client because it's been locked. That will be because of the Docker download. So that means I need to wait longer before I run Hashicorp because of the thingy. Or what I can do actually is take out. Well, not really got much to do with Nix. All I've got to do is update the provisioning script, take out the user data to just move that. All I've got to do is just move that to there. It's not really that much of an issue, but that's okay. So I need to get Docker installed in it. That's fine. All right. Well, what I'll do is I'll fix that. But I think overall, I mean, really, I should be just baking an AMI with Packet. That's probably the better thing to do. But overall, I really loving this. I just need to get Vault sorted to better understand how you integrate it and use it properly. And then need to get zero trust networking set up as well, so that all of the thingies are all talking over TLS to each other. Because I think it's plain text on the internal AWS network at the minute, which I don't really actually mind, but I think zero trust is achievable and doable and should be something that we aim for as a matter of default, I guess. So yeah. Cool. Where's my thingy gone? Let's kill that. Boo! Vault plus Nomad common use case. is for cert generation. Yes. Yes, indeed. Because I know Vault can do is a full peak, can do a full PKI. But I just need to work it out. Yeah. But the problem is though, Vault is coming after console. And so I still need certificates before console Vault even comes into the equation. Because I could set up Vault first, but then how do I set up a Vault cluster to be a zero trust network when I need a CA to generate certs to get Vault to be set up? And effectively, console underpins Vault and Nomad when it comes to binding them all together, because obviously it's the service mesh. So console is essentially the underlying fabric that you install first. And so that needs to be zero trust. So then again, where do you get the certificates from for that? And so in our architecture, we have original Vault single for the purpose of root CA and transit engine for auto sealing. Okay, so you set up a Vault in standalone mode to be the root CA, and then you use that to build out a full HA solution with console, blah blah blah. And then the single instance is it on all the time or is it shut down? And a transit engine for auto unsealing. Transit engine is on, but only used for transit. You have to explain what you mean. That I have to pretty much at the end of the stream now, but that's okay. Let's just pop over here. That's obviously going to be dead now. It's obviously not going to work. Boom. Vault. So Hashicorp Vault. So if I do, what do you mean by transit? Is this what you mean? It's transit secret engine. Yes. Okay. Cryptographic function for on data in transit. Vault doesn't store the data sent to the secret engine. It can also be viewed as cryptographic as a service or encryption as a service. The transit secret engine can also sign and verify data, generate hashes, HTML for data, and also access sorts of random bytes. Okay. So you set up a single instance of Vault with this engine running. This is the only auto unseal engine that is to tie to cloud cluster. This is the only that is. You do know if you in Discord, if you press the up key, you can edit the previous message. Because I don't know where that not goes. This is not the only auto unseal engine that is to tie cloud cluster. Yeah, that is not tied to cloud or cluster. Okay. So I guess if you set up one Vault to be a root CA, how do you then? So then, how would I automate the delivery of that? So in my Terraform, could I get Terraform to build my infrastructure for me and also generate the certificates that then get fed into the console? Yeah. Okay. So it's basically the Vault provider that's going to be able to use to create an auth backend. Okay. All right. Generate secret PKI secret backend. Yeah. All right. So if I have a bit of so if I have a module that sets up that for me in AWS on another node in another subnet, perhaps on a small node. I've got to think of costs here as well. Really, I don't want the cost to be running into the hundreds of dollars per month to run this cluster, but I do want the cluster. It's an important education tool for me and other people, so I do want to run it. So I'll need a Terraform module to build that out for me, get that up and running, and then the other Terraform module will then have to create the certificates needed locally to then push. Yeah, okay. Because Hashicorp will take certificates locally and it'll upload them for you. So if I give it that for console, that should be able to give it a zero trust networking console, as well as HTTPS when talking to the thing, etc. Of course, you will need to import the root CSS into your system browser. Yeah. That's fine. I don't mind that. Then any downstream cert will be valid after that. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and then I can get the other, so then I can set up another vault, which is then used within the actual Nomad cluster for talking to, for secrets management, for then talking to RDS and AWS and stuff like that. Okay. Looks like I'm going to have to do a little bit of more research on that, but that's really interesting. Since the common issue with PKTLS is that always need a valid cert. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. There's going to be a lot more studying to do here, definitely. But I think for the time being, all I really need is a console Nomad cluster to run this super wish list, and then it can evolve over time. The malice is typing. All right. Boom. It's going to be the end of stream for me. I think it's been a good one. I think we've looked at some cool stuff. Got some cool questions. Got to run, thanks. No worries. Ha. Good timing. Well, thanks for showing up anyway. Really appreciate you guys coming to watch. Really, really appreciate it. I hope it was entertaining. Hope it was good. Hope you learned some things. Got to see some cool stuff. Really do appreciate it. So on Wednesday we'll have people on for chatting. So Julio, you can come on, and some of the other professionals will be able to come on and have a chat. And I think that will be a nice little thing. And I'll try and moderate it so that people aren't talking over the top of each other, so on and so forth. I think that'll be a good idea. But yeah, so the next stream will be on Wednesday, and then next Sunday I think I'll trial doing it really early for me. Maybe something like 7:30 in the morning, 8 a.m. for me. See if that can bring in some additional viewers from the UK, specifically maybe a bit of Europe, if it's not too late. But yeah, cool. All right, all the best. Have a good one, and take it easy. Boom. Very nice.